he's on the front of our thumbnail today, and it's everyone's been asking this question of me, Terry. Who do you want in as your manager if Ten Hag is sacked? Who do you want in? Who's the guy to turn it around? Who's the guy to change it? And the guy I suggest gets laughed at, and it gets laughed at, I believe, due to a level of ignorance, a level of buying into a sort of a stereotype, which is unfounded, and that's Diego Simeone, because there is a lie essentially about him that he plays very boring, overly pragmatic, horrible to watch, low quality football. He is Sam Allardyce with a bigger club and a bigger checkbook, and a bit more of a tan on his skin. That is what a lot of people kind of perceive Diego Simeone as. Yeah, which is, exactly, in better shape as well.
Yeah.
Which in itself is an absolute nonsense. I don't watch a great deal of La Liga, but I've watched enough of Ati, and I would say over the years when they've been up against the best Real Madrids and the best Barças, they've been more pragmatic in those games. But against the vast majority of teams they play, the football is quick, that they press well, the ball moves quickly. I like the football. So I look at Diego Simeone, and this is what we need to do. It isn't just Simeone. We need someone who is of a world-class level of man management and experience, but who also is a project manager, because we are not ready for somebody like a Pep to come in now, even though there are not very many Peps around, because we're too broken. You need someone like Diego Simeone, who is world-class and is project-based, in my opinion. Then what you need is everything that's kind of going on now. We need the new CEO, which is going to be Jean-Claude Blanc. We need directors of football. It looks like we're going for Dan Ashworth, which I hope we do. I think he's phenomenal, what he's done before. Recruitment-wise, it's got to be people like Paul Mitchell, like Martin Edwards, who have a great network out there. But then on top of that, when it comes to the new manager and it comes to the new board, we need to decide as a club exactly how we want to play football, exactly what we want our identity to be, and the players in which that fix it. And for me, as long as you do that, it does matter if the manager is successful or not, but it means you can sack managers more frequently and not go off plan. What we have done wrong at Man United, and the reason we're in this position, is because each manager we try to treat as like he's a new Fergie. We give them so much control, so much power. We start to rebuild the club under their image and their ideology, when most managers nowadays are not trained to run football clubs. They're trained to coach the first team and have a bit of an impact and input elsewhere. And we need to fix those elements there. And I know a lot of people, and this super chat sums it up for me from Ray. Ray's a good guy, that Terrace, I respect him a lot. He says, sorry, Terry, we are going back with Jose if he brings in Simeone. See, this is what I'm saying to you.
I
disagree, but go on. You answer that.
Let me. So I watch a lot of La Liga, always have. This tag that Simeone gets, that his teams are boring to watch, is from people that don't watch La Liga. It's quite simply people that don't watch La Liga. What they've done is they've seen what Simeone's done when he's come up against a Pep Guardiola, for example, where he knows he can't compete with the football, and he's seen them, for a lack of a better term, stink it out, so to speak. Listen, Simeone gets every player running through a brick wall for him. Yeah, Simeone's team score goals. Simeone's unbeaten run at home for Atletico Madrid is ridiculous, by the way. I saw it the other day. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they haven't lost for something like 24 games at home or something. Like, they just don't lose. They have got a good shape, good system. They've got some really good attacking players. So sorry, big up Ray, but this whole, we're going back to Joe, they're nothing like each other in style-wise at all. We can't keep just lumping managers into the same buckets, right? Equally, I had this conversation 2 days ago on Saeed's channel with Saeed, and I said to Saeed, I said, you guys need a manager that wants a project. Now, the word project irked him. He was like, no, we don't. We need someone that can come in and win now. And I was like, no, hang on. But the difference is we all want to pluck that manager now, right? Like when Spurs did it with Conte and with Jose, win now managers, right? We did that. We weren't ready. We didn't have the personnel for those managers to come in and go, right, I've won everywhere else. Here's what we do and we win. We weren't ready. And Man U are at that stage. I'm not hating. Got no reason to hate Man U. But Man U are not at the stage where you could drop in Pep. You could drop in Klopp. You could drop in Ancelotti. Right now, your team needs a few years of creating a pathway, an identity, an ideology, an ethos. I could use all those words. You need a manager that's going to come in and go, Rashford, see you later. Don't care what the fans think. You're out. You, Bruno, you're out. I'm not picking players. I'm just examples,
no,
right?
It's fine. I agree.
You go. Right. I only want players in who play my philosophy, and we are going to play it from day one, whether it works immediate or not. We're going to play it. This is what we're going to create. Come out and tell the fans, patience. Have patience with me. This is going to take a few years to get this right. Have patience. Trust me. Let me build this. But what the United fans in turn have got to do, Terry, not all United fans, but a lot of United fans I see in chats, they still do very much talk about Man United that you and I would have grown up with. They talk about Man United like there's a God-given right to have what Fergie created for you, and you're not there anymore. You're not there. So you need to build that.
I've got a lot of respect for Said and what he does. And I understand the desire to, I want to win now. And I suppose this is why I've always had a lot of clashes with Man United fans I want Ten Hag gone. But I do not believe just sacking Ten Hag fixes Manchester United.
I agree.
And I would, if I was streaming with Said, I'd say this to his face as well. Said, we had this conversation when Ollie was being sacked. This notion that sacking Ollie would fix us is not true. And there's a super chat that's come in here that said, Terry, with Simeone, didn't we say the same about Ten Hag before he joined? Will he get the tools to run his project? And this is the point, though, Patrick Lynch, and you've hit the nail on the head. Everything I said about Ten Hag when he came in and what I was excited about, I stated, it doesn't matter how good he is, what the football looks like initially, if we don't have a change in how we operate as a club.
Exactly.
Football people making football decisions, a change in our recruitment policy and how we operate. We don't actually have a genuine reset and a genuine rebuild from top to bottom, inside out. He will eventually go in the same direction as every other manager. And when we won that League Cup last year, we had improved over a short period of time. We had that first burst off the manager, which we've had off other managers like Jose, like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he first came in. But then what happens is the toxicity and the poor culture at the club eats away at your strategy, just like every other sporting institute, business, church, school, family in the world that has an underlying, deep-rooted systemic problem. And you are right, Simeone will foul, Pep would foul, Klopp would foul. If you got a DeLorean, flew back to 1985 and brought Sir Alex in under this current way we've been running, they would all fail to some degree. The better the manager, the more success they would squeeze out. But ultimately, in the end, we will end up in exactly the same position as which we started, because that's the culture of the football club. So Simeone by himself cannot fix Man United. We need a complete overhaul internally. And every time we start a project, we're told it's happening. We're told this has begun, they're doing this better now. And we start seeing the green shoots of hope, but then old habits die hard. And I think once we got past February into March, April, May, and I think the news internally was the Qataris are not coming in, the Glazers could be staying. I think that is when problems really set in. Because I think there was a period of time where we're going to get new owners, they're going to come in and shake things up. We've all got to work hard, pull in the right direction. As soon as that stopped, there was carnage. And that's the biggest job for Sir Jim now, to come in and fix the culture. If that doesn't get fixed, and people want to ignore that, they honestly, the way Man United fans ignore that as the root cause problem at our club, I find staggering, because with every manager, we've had these debates in or out. Last 3 managers running, I've sat there and said, I want the manager gone, because I think for 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons, I think it's untenable for them to stay. But I've said in each debate, just sacking that manager don't fix us. And for some weird reason, we labor under this illusion that it's going to be okay this time if we change nothing else. And It isn't going to happen. So I said this to Lee Gunner yesterday, and I stand by it. I expect in the first couple of years a system. I want the football to be more attractive. I want to be more competitive. I want to challenge for the domestic trophies. But it will take 2 to 3 years minimum before we're able to compete continuously and on the same level as Man City's, as where Liverpool are now, where Bayern Munich, where Real Madrid are now, because it's going to take that long to clear out all the dead players and bring in new ones. We've seen, by the way, with Chelsea. And I know me and Lee Gunner had this debate 2 years ago, and he said it was possible. You can't build a whole new squad in 2 summers. It doesn't work. There's too much turnover. It's going to take time for us to get back to that level on a consistent basis. And we might play better football straight away, like Spurs have. You guys, first 10 games, wow. People were talking like the rebuild was done. All it took was a couple of injuries and a couple of results for everyone to go, oh, actually. So you can improve quickly, but there's still a big gap. There's still a big gap between where Spurs are and where Man City are overall.
You can improve quickly as a club. Whatever club we're talking about, you can improve quickly, but consistently staying there. This is something that's completely gone out of all football fans, all football pundits, everything, board, chairman, whatever. Something that's gone out of football is consistency, right? No one wants to give anyone time. No one wants consistency. You know, if you say like a player signs, I remember like Caicedo at Chelsea after 3 or 4 games, he's rubbish. And you're like, whoa, hang on. Like, can't we give a player a year to settle and get, it's the same with football fans. And unfortunately, it's the same with, if I look at Arsenal fans, because they finished second last year, they think they're better than they are. Man United fans, they think that they should be where they were under Ferguson, just in one transfer window.
Because of their name. It's
right.
Our name. It's
Spurs
crazy.
fans. Yeah. I'll say the same about my fans. Spurs fans, because we started the season well and we're much better than we were, everyone's not just happy we're better. It's let's take it to the complete nth degree and go, we're not just better, we're the best, we're going to win it. And it's like, whoa, let's let managers have a couple of years, but here's the difference. Spurs started with Postecoglou, right? And this ties into Man United. Spurs started with Postecoglou with a brand new director of football at the same time, a brand new chief football officer, brand new scouts. Yes. So they all started at the same time. Here's our plan. What are we all doing together? Now, what Spurs are going to start to see, hopefully, fingers crossed, you never know, it's Spurs, you never know. Fingers crossed that we start moving in the right direction and that the club actually gives itself a platform that over the next 4, 5, 6 years, people turn around and go, we know what Tottenham are as a club. That fans like me can go, I'm really happy with what we're doing as a club moving forward.
Yep.
Man United can sack Ten Hag if you don't get all that other stuff right, the director of football, the scouts, the physios, the academy. If you don't get all of that right, none of the rest matters. And this is the problem. Yeah. You can sack Ten Hag. You could go and bring in 3 or 4 quality players, right? If you haven't got the director of football, the academy playing the same way as your first team, if you haven't got all that, there's no sustainability. And fans don't want sustainability. They want now.
And do you know what's interesting about it? Well, you're speaking absolute facts, and I'll tell you as to why. Lee and I on Straight Facts had this debate a couple of weeks ago where he said I was being a hypocrite because I wanted Ten Hag out, but yet now, even though back in the day I thought that Arteta was going to go, but now you're saying that Arsenal were maybe right to stick by Arteta. And I said, yes, but the situations are different, aren't they? And we've learned from that. Now, I still think that even with Arteta, may prove to not have been the right decision to keep him. But they're in a rebuild. And the biggest difference in the two situations is this. There was multiple change at board level, recruitment level, director of football level at Arsenal in and around the same time Arteta came in. Just like your example with Big Ange Postecoglou. There was a seismic change internally at the same time. It wasn't just Big Ange taking over from where Conte left off with all the same infrastructure around it. That's where Ten Hag's situation is different.
But by the way, Terry, just before you carry on though, let's just say, as a Spurs fan, I'm saying I like what I see at the moment, what we've implemented. It's very early days. Like, I'm not sitting here going, what we've implemented, every other club has to follow. We're going to win everything. No, for me, I just like the baby steps. Give yourself a platform. That's all it is.
And I'm not suggesting that you've said that. And I think you're absolutely right. It's as of now, so far, this has been good. But that's the problem when it comes to listen, if Ten Hag turns this around, then it's the wrong thing to do. Right. If it turns out in 3 years' time, I'm wrong to suggest now he should be sacked, and I don't think he can turn it around, I'll just hold my hands up and say I got that element wrong. But let's not lose sight of the overarching conversation, which is far more important than that element. And there's a comment here. And Miles, I understand Arteta, you don't believe Arteta will never win a major trophy. However, that doesn't mean he hasn't been an important part of the rebuild of your club, because Arsenal, in my opinion, are in a better position now than when he took over. And that is also an important part, the stewardship of a manager. Whether this is in football, or whether it's of a department of a bank, or whether it's the running of a shoe shop somewhere, there's an element within leadership called stewardship. And essentially what it boils down to is, are you leaving that department, that business, that school, that football team in a better position than when you found it? And I think Arteta has played a part. The jury is still out as to whether he's good enough to get you over the line to win the major trophies. But Arsenal felt it right after Unai Emery's failure. As him as a manager and as a club, we need to clear out a lot of the squad. We need to clear out a lot of the backroom staff. We need to start again. Now, whether or not it was right to go with a rookie manager at that time, only time will tell. But I personally believe if you'd have just gone for another world-class manager or top-class to world-class manager 4 years ago, I still believe they'd have fouled similarly to Unai Emery, because you needed an internal rebuild. That ignoring that element for me is unbelievable. And there's a comment that was made here by Miles as well. I want to highlight it. He said, you don't get time in elite level football. As a manager, generally speaking, you are right, but it all depends contextually. And there's a nuance to this.
Context
on the club,
is massive.
Club, size of the club, where the club is, what their recent successes look like. So you are right. If you take over this Real Madrid team and you are not getting results almost straight away, absolutely sack them. If you took over from Man United straight after Fergie and you're not getting results, yes, you sack straight away because the club was left in a good situation. If you take over from Pep Guardiola and you don't start winning, or you're not competitive, yes, sack straight away. But taking over an Arsenal after 15 years of not winning a Premier League in the mess they were in, you should be given more time if there's a rebuild going on. With Man United's current situation, you do have to give a manager time to a degree. But even then, where you're right still, Miles, is if you lose 14 games by Christmas in your second year, after nearly £500 million invested on your say-so, then yes, you have to be looked to be moved on. So there's multiple things that can be right at the same time, but you have to contextualize each club and view each club on its own merit and its own situation. I've said this many times before, clubs are not a monolith. They cannot be judged identically to each other or put shoulder to shoulder just because of their history or their name, even based on what they spend. You have to look at their current circumstance. Taking over now AC Milan is not like taking over AC Milan in 2004 as a manager. The situation is different because the landscape has changed. So I understand where you're coming from, but you do need to this notion of just high standards makes you win is nonsense. You can have the biggest high standards in the world. You have the greatest manager in the world. If a club has no internal infrastructure, no quality of culture, you're failing. Simple as that.